Hello everybody, how's it going? It's your host and founder of the American Rail Club, Demetrius Villa, and we're here again with some good news that has come up in the last couple of days. Amtrak announces new non-stop Acela train between DC and NYC. So this is some pretty big news and a good service change for Amtrak that I believe, in my opinion, to be good. So let's go ahead and look at these couple of articles that I've gone over here and see in detail what this really means for Amtrak in America in terms of high-speed rail transit in this country. So let's go here. This is from ABC News. Amtrak announced it will offer nonstop service between Washington, D.C. and New York City starting September 23rd. The company announced the launch of the new Acela nonstop Thursday, and tickets are already available for purchase. The new Acela nonstop service will have you halfway to your New York City or DC destination in the time it will take for you to board a flight. That's from Amtrak President and CEO Richard Anderson in a press release, who, by the way, was a chairman, I believe, of Delta Airlines. So now he's President and CEO of Amtrak. This new service will offer an ideal solution for travelers who want to save time and travel between city center DC and New York City. So here's another article from the USA Today, and it goes a little bit into more detail of what it actually looks like as well. So again, right now the Amtrak Acela reaches a top speed of 150 miles an hour, but the top speed between New York City and Washington is 135 miles an hour because the infrastructure there does not support for its full top speed. But this is sort of what it looks like right now, the Acela Express. So between New York to DC, you have a couple of stops currently right now. You have Baltimore, you have Wilmington, Delaware, you have Philly, you have Trenton, Jersey, and then you have New York Penn Station. So currently it makes all those stops, but with this now new direct service between DC to New York, now you'll be able to get there in less time. How much less? Well, currently Amtrak Acela takes about 3 hours, so it's about 2 hours, 55 minutes, which, give or take, that's really 3 hours. And the Northeast Regional, which a lot more people take within that region, is about 3 hours and 30 minutes. So right now you're only saving 30 minutes and paying probably about a good 100 to 200 more for your ticket between DC to New York. However, with this new direct service, now it's about an hour savings. With what we're calling now the nonstop trip will take approximately 2 hours and 35 minutes each way. So this is a pretty good amount of savings of time between these two major cities. And again, who usually takes the Acela Express? It's usually a lot of business people, a lot of politicians and lobbyists that also travel between New York to DC. And again, you have a lot of super commuters as well that take this. And you have plenty of tourists and families that want to go ahead and visit either our nation's capital or our nation's probably, biggest city that we have. So again, this is, very good for this region. Initially, there's only going to be weekday service, which again, it's mostly for business, so weekday service only makes sense. Will be offered with a single southbound train departing New York at 6:35 a.m. and arriving in Washington at 9:10 a.m. So again, a lot of people going from New York over to DC, a lot of these super commuters. And a northbound train departing Washington at 4:30 p.m. and arriving in New York at 7:05 p.m. So this is pretty good. Amtrak spokesman Jason Abrams told USA Today its nonstop service is 15 minutes faster than the average Acela train on the route. Again, 15 minutes faster, maybe 30 minutes, but 15 minutes, again, could be a possibility, but the Acela takes about 2 hours, about 3 hours right now, so about makes sense. After the nonstop train service launches, Amtrak will weigh the potential for expansion and higher frequency. In its 2018 fiscal year, New York Penn Station and Washington Union Station were Amtrak's top busiest stations across its network. So does this make financial sense? Absolutely. Does this make sense in serving more passengers on a more frequent and consistent schedule? Absolutely. So Amtrak is making a very good decision here. Back to the ABC article. Again, this is saying the same thing in 2018, Union Station and Penn Station were Amtrak's busiest stations in the country. The Acela Nonstop will have the same options as other Amtrak trains, and that's including the quiet car, cafe car, and first class option. And then here's a picture here, Amtrak train station, passengers disembarking in this undated photo. It's like that meme where the time travelers go into this time and they have no clue what it is, so they go ahead and ask, hey, do you know what time this is? Does Amtrak trains still look the same? Yeah, this is what they look like. This could be any time. We don't know. Again, the Amtrak trains have looked kind of the same for the last 30 years or so. That's the reality of what it is. So, again, is this a good thing for Amtrak and then moving forward? Absolutely. Again, Amtrak says they will weigh potential expansion in terms of location and frequency in the future. So, and Penn Station really needs a lot of help as well, because currently the current Penn Station, I've said this before, when you go to New York, looks horrible, but thankfully there is going to be a change in that, like the Moynihan Train Hall that they're changing up right now, which is the old, it's still a post office across the street from Penn Station. They're now changing that over, or have changed parts of it over to a train station. So it's going to look like this. So that's a complete night and day difference between the current Penn Station as it weighs right now in Moynihan, which is going to look like this. So let's go ahead and take a look at the comments over here, because I like looking at the comments, seeing what people have to say, because this is where you get a different view than what the journalist would like to tell you. So you have this guy over here, buy stamps on the train too. I mean, I don't know who buys stamps on trains anymore and who even sends letters anymore. It's all by text nowadays. Robert Benning says, that way you can get to the scene of the accident faster. I don't know which is the accident, this comment. Probably. Ferris Mike, you got Iron Mike over here. He, DC, NY, MA Triangle gets all the funding while rest of country has crumbling infrastructure. If I haven't seen Boomer posting on here, this is what it looks like. Something like 5 of most wealthy countries gird DC. I think he tried to say counties. If you ever wonder where the federal budget goes, where does it go, man? You didn't write the rest of it. Again, there's also a Facebook group, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Boomer Posting, where a whole bunch of people pretend to be boomers, so everything is in all caps, or they're sending in little memes of minions or whatnot. I have no clue why is it that a lot of older folks like the minions, but it's strange, the minions from Despicable Me. Jeffrey Scholar, really? Wow, they should have done this 50 years ago. While they're at it, they could add a few hundred more departure times so people might actually be able to ride trains. Christopher Cole, pathetic. This is news. Amtrak America needs to scrap the entire antiquated rail system and invest in high-speed rail coast to coast. Spain, Japan, Germany, and France are all making America look like a third world country. Yeah, we've known that for a pretty long time. For enabling the airline industry for way too long. It's pretty spot on with that. So again, a lot of people are just beginning to see the reality of what we have with our current United States infrastructure. Not impressed. US is still lagging behind most of the rest of the developed world. Top speed of 150 miles an hour, while 10 other rail systems have top speeds of 200 miles per hour. That's from Tom Ledoux. So do some of these people make sense? Yeah, they do. So let's go ahead and look at this. Again, I think what Amtrak is doing is pretty good. And we're not going to get this changed overnight. But let's go ahead and see what the rest of the world has. So right now, we're looking at DC to New York. It's about 220 miles, give or take. And you're looking at about 4-hour, 5-hour car ride, which in reality, that's going to be more like 7 hours. Getting out of DC traffic and going into New York, Newark traffic, it's going to be pretty terrible. And then again, you're passing through Philly and whatnot, and again, the traffic over there is pretty bad too. Everywhere up on all I-95 is going to be pretty bad. So again, 220 miles. Amtrak it's going to take about 2 hours and 35 minutes on the direct train ride between DC to New York. Now, let's look at a very similarly spaced service in another part of the world, a frankly more developed part of the world. This is in Japan. So we have Tokyo over to Nagoya, and that's about 354 kilometers, which in a unit from a country that has been able to get on the moon, that's about 220 miles. So again, this is about the same type of distance. And again, not to bash anybody from other parts of the world that don't use the imperial system, because again, it's a kind of weird thing that we're the only country, along with maybe 2 other countries, that use this system, and maybe the UK and some parts of it were still using miles. But again, it's kind of where we are right now. So again, they're about 220 miles apart, these 2 cities of Nagoya and Tokyo. So again, Acela Express is about 2 hours, 35 minutes, with the same amount of space between these 2 cities. In Japan, you're looking at the same type of express train, and again, there's a little bit of more stops in between as well. It's not 2 direct stops, there's a couple more stops, an hour and 40 minutes. So that's about an hour faster than Amtrak, including stops. But again, Japan and JR Central have put in so much more funding and so much more effort and research, and also a lot of infrastructure development into this system to make sure that it's able to reach these speeds of close to 200 miles an hour, so people can be able to go through this system and all over the country of Japan. And if you want to see more about the Shinkansen, this incredible system that has moved a total of more than 10 billion people in 50 years, and not one fatality, not one accident fatality. If you want to see how this incredible system works, go ahead and check out this video in the corner over here. You're going to be able to look at that. And as well, if you want to see more information, I do recommend you go ahead and look at this NHK documentary, which I'll go ahead and link in the comments below. It's Japanology Plus about the Shinkansen, more into the safety and the punctuality of this system, because it's incredible. I mean, when it says it's going to arrive at 10:30, it's going to be there at 10:29 most likely. So this is how incredible this system is. But a lot of it has to do with the infrastructure of the Northeast Corridor. And again, there's some comments that have made this apparent. So again, this is from the ABC News discussion board. Again, someone saying now if they can get it running at 100 miles per hour, then they would have something to toot their whistle about. In this case, this is from another commenter, it's not the trains, but the track. Since we got rid of our passenger track years ago, all that is left is freight track, and that can't always support the higher speeds. If we could get dedicated passenger track back, our trains would fly, if you pardon the pun. So there's a little bit off with this comment. First of all, Amtrak does own the corridor of the Northeast. So between DC to Boston, they do own that track, and that's all passenger track. Now, outside of that, minus a couple of places in the Midwest and also in California, Amtrak does not own the freight railroad tracks. They lease the service from there, and then the freight railroads do not give Amtrak the prioritization to have passengers over freight whenever they're running their trains, which again is against the law. But hey, there's no enforcement like any other laws here in the United States. It doesn't mean anything unless it's enforced. So again, there's a little bit of truth into that comment, but Amtrak does own the Northeast Corridor. Here's some other comments. Living in DC, taking the train is the only way I will travel to New York City. Again, taking a flight is going to take a good 5 hours or so. It's going to be more expensive than getting to the airport. You're going to take an hour because of traffic, and not only that, Dulles and JFK or Newark, if you're smart to get into New York City. Don't get into LaGuardia or JFK. Well, JFK sometimes, if you're getting into some of the terminals there, are nice. But Newark is usually the easier and cheaper way to get through there. Just a little travel tip if you want. But getting into any of these airports is going to take about a good hour. Then you have another hour getting into the airport and getting through TSA while they go ahead and YouTube censor word your personal areas. And then you go ahead and get up and go into the airline, and that's about again another hour of flight, and then about the same way to get back. So you're taking a good 4 or 5 hours. This train will take you from city center to city center, and again, 2 major metropolitan areas that have pretty robust metro systems for the United States. They're very good, very robust. The Washington metro system is very good, as well as the subway in New York, and probably the two best that we have, along with probably Chicago. But these systems are very good, and getting into these cities are, directly on a train line is the best way to get it done. So again, you have other comments in here, but some people have also talked about how bad the infrastructure is in the Northeast Corridor. And again, that is something that I have also opined on and have shown that, again, this makes sense. So let's take a look at the Amtrak Susquehanna River Bridge, for example. So this bridge was built finished in 1906. So take a look at this. This is a train, the Acela Express, train around the year 2000 on a bridge that's from 1906. So this bridge is 113 years old, about 113 years old. And you have a train on here that's about 20 years old. So again, it's a very different span of time over here, where you have trains in other countries that are maybe 5 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old, and a lot of the infrastructure is new. We're still running with infrastructure that was made in the beginning of the 20th century. Now, if this is not a testament to how good people built stuff back then, I don't know what is, especially in America, because you had a lot of people that made great stuff back then, and it still stands. Mind you, it still stands, unlike the roadways that they build now and they break apart in 5 months, or one winter splits them into pieces. Again, they were able to make stuff that can last 100 years. But again, this is a bridge that has lasted 113 years. It's not going to be in such great condition. So the U.S. Department of Transportation did announce that they're going to have $22 million of funding to replace the bridge, engineering and environmental work. So they're still studying up on that. I don't know how much more they have to study. I think they should just go ahead and just start fixing the darn thing already. And again, you have other places in the Northeast Corridor that are falling apart. Think of the Baltimore-Potomac tunnels over here. Again, these are tunnels, according to this article. This is from 2017. It was 144 years old. So right now it's about 146 years old. So we're talking about a tunnel close to the time of the Civil War when it was built. And it was closer to the Civil War when this tunnel was built. So again, this is the infrastructure we're talking about that needs major repairs. You have leaking on here. A lot of the tracks are very close. The trains can only go max 30 miles an hour through this tunnel. So they are trying to go ahead and fix this. And again, it's also in the Northeast Corridor. There's other tunnels that need fixing. But again, whenever things like this start to happen, you have the opposition coming out. And again, this is so silly. Protesters rally against proposed Baltimore-Potomac Tunnel Project diesel vent outside elementary school. Because this train is electric. Most of the trains here are electric. I mean, there are some freight trains and other trains that are diesel in here, but most of these are electric. Again, I mean, you can kind of see that. But they're here complaining about diesel exhaust. Where are these people when the United States federal government or the state government goes ahead and builds another highway, another freeway, which again are not free? We pay taxpayer money for the freeways, and then we pay tolls on top of the taxes for tolls. So again, where are these people protesting when more roads are getting built? Because in this country, and in most countries and every part around the world, cars, automobiles produce the most pollution that is detrimental to the environment. So where are these people when it comes to cars? I don't know. Maybe half of these protesters went back home on their trucks. Probably that's what it is. But again, there's so many other tunnels and so many other projects that need fixing in the Northeast Corridor. Probably the most critical would be the Hudson Tunnel. Again, New York, if you don't have New York in the Northeast Corridor, the whole thing falls apart. Again, that's not to say to the detriment of other cities in the Northeast Corridor. If you don't have New York, you don't have the country. It's the financial capital of the world and whatnot. Again, some people could argue that if we didn't have the banks, we may be better off. But we're not going to talk about it on this channel. But just letting you know, again, the Hudson Tunnel is another project that also needs to be fixed. So again, these are articles here. I'll go ahead and put the links in the description. But again, let's go back to this. Do you think that what Amtrak is doing is good? Let me know in the comments below. Personally, I think this is a great idea. It doesn't cost that much to go ahead and reroute a train to go to you go along a different schedule. Doesn't take that much. It's probably even cheaper because they don't have to make as many stops. Not only that, it's going to be able to take in more passengers. It's going to make the service quicker, substantially quicker in terms of Amtrak, and will hopefully get more people to ride the train. And we're talking about more business, more politicians, maybe less politicians, I don't know. But definitely more business, more tourists, and there's going to be more jobs also that are going to come out from this. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, be sure to subscribe. We're going to be coming out with more videos as well later on during the week. We're going to be coming out with our regular videos now. Getting one already. The script is already done for it. I got to go ahead and record it and edit it. So hopefully it will be out by the end of this week. And also be sure to follow us on Facebook and our Facebook group, American Rail Club, as well as to support us on Patreon. And the more we can be able to get more support on Patreon, the more time I can be able to invest into this, and the more places, the more interviews that I can be able to do. And you can also follow us on Twitter. Again, I'm trying to get more involved into this. I do think Twitter is also another great platform that I can be able to go ahead and connect with others, and also to be able to opine on other subjects in terms of American rail infrastructure. So again, be sure to subscribe and click that bell so when I do get new videos up and new news about American infrastructure, you'll be able to get it right to you on your phone, on your computer, and in your mailbox or inbox. I mean, again, we are living in 2019. I don't think you could buy stamps on trains anymore. Again, we'll see you all next time. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care.